I'm Charlie Danis of Capital Athletics, and joining me now is the junior defensive end from the Capital Football Squad, Tyler Connor. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Tyler, let's go back to the beginning. How were you introduced to the game of football?
I actually started playing football pretty late in life, especially compared to a lot of my friends. I only played football starting in 7th grade. Prior to that, I played lacrosse and hockey in Colorado because football wasn't as big of a sport there as those were. So,
What piqued your interest?
John Elway, to be honest. When I was a kid, my room was decorated with John Elway stuff, and I always liked football, but my mom was hesitant to let me play, and she finally did. I loved it, and then shortly after that, I moved here to Ohio, and after that, just stuck with it.
Let's talk about the Broncos for just a second. So you're big Broncos fan.
Yes,
Obviously,
I am.
You talked about John Elway. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Where did that start?
That as soon as I was born, it really wasn't much of an option for me. I was born a Broncos fan. Even when I was too young to remember, my wallpaper was John Elway and newspaper clippings everywhere. And just at that time, growing up in Colorado, he was the man. We bought a car from his car dealership.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's.
Do you remember the car?
Yeah, it was a minivan or something. Nothing
Okay.
special, but
Okay.
we bought
Alright.
it from John Elway. So.
Okay. Well, hey, there you go. What do you make of this year's Broncos squad?
They're doing good. I was actually really impressed with their win over the Packers. I thought it was going to be a closer game than that. The defense is looking really sound this year. It's a good thing too because Peyton's on the downward end of his career.
So you grew up in Denver.
Mhm.
How did you end up here in Ohio?
My dad has always lived here in Ohio, and when I was 12, I just decided that I had been living there with my mother for a while and figured I would come give it a chance and live here.
What was the biggest adjustment for you?
Not looking out into the horizon and seeing the mountains. That was a big.
That had to be tough.
Yeah, it was because it's something that you think, oh, you're in Colorado, it's just kind of always there, and you kind of take it for granted. And then it was strange looking out and not seeing them.
So your position is defensive end. How were you able to end up at that position in high school?
Well, I actually didn't play in high school. I played linebacker in high school, and
Okay.
then Capital actually wasn't the first school I went to. I went to Alderson Broaddus in West Virginia right out of high school, and some of the stuff they were asking their linebackers to do was more for smaller guys. They were supposed to be covering slot receivers all the way down the field, and the way their defensive line play was set up, they felt that I'd be a better fit at defensive end, so that's when I was moved to D-end, and ever since then I stuck with it. After my freshman year, I transferred here at Capital and hung with it.
Why did you transfer to Capital?
Well, when I was being recruited, my decision ultimately came down to Capital or Alderson Broaddus, and I went to Alderson Broaddus thinking that it would be a higher level football, and I was going to give that a try. And nothing against the school; it had a lot of good things going for it. But as soon as I got there, I regretted not choosing Capital because I liked Capital so much, and I think I chose to go to Alderson Broaddus for the wrong reasons.
We're talking with junior defensive end Tyler Connor here on athletics.capital.edu. So you arrive here at Capital, you get yourself acclimated to the team and to the defensive line. Talk to me about this D-line group. It's a pretty talented bunch.
Yeah, we're talented. We haven't had the production that we would have liked this year, but we're really hoping that in these next 2 games we can turn it around and especially set the precedent going forward so that next year we can build on the last 2 games of this season.
Your job is to rush the passer. It seems like week in and week out you guys take on great passers within the OAC. Talk to me about that experience.
Well, not even as much the passers as the offensive lines we face. We face some great offensive lines in the OAC, and we've struggled for sure at times with it this year, but we still have some young guys on the defensive line, and we're growing.
So your next opponent, Heidelberg. Coach Candido was telling me that they have one of the more experienced offensive lines in all the Ohio Athletic Conference. What jumps out at you when you watch them on film?
They have a lot of big guys, but I think they play a little bit high, so hopefully we'll be able to use that to our advantage and make something happen.
You're an upperclassman. You still got
Correct.
one more year
Correct.
remaining, but it's getting closer and closer to closing time for these seniors
Yeah.
here in this Capital squad.
Yeah.
What does that class mean to this program?
Well, as a class, they have 7 guys left. One of them's a transfer, and they've just been through a lot with this program. They haven't won a lot of games, but just the tenacity of that group of guys to stick it out is very impressive and respectable to me. And I'd like more than anything if we could go out and send those guys off with a bang.
I know that the month of October It was really rough for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hoping to turn around here in November. So you got this game against Heidelberg and then the season finale against Marietta. What would it mean going into next year, momentum-wise, to possibly get 2 wins to end this year?
Well, I think that the end of the season, especially in a losing season, a season that hasn't gone the way you'd want it to, the last couple of games are big because they can really set the tone for the offseason, give you a spark going into the offseason, into lifting and training, so that you prepare even harder for the next season.
Tyler, now let me ask you about your major. We always like to get to know you guys not only as an athlete, but also as a student athlete, emphasizing that student part. So what are you studying here at Capital?
Political science. I'm in the pre-law track.
What led you to go for a major like that?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't my first choice. I've been a person who's changed what I've been interested in many times, and it actually was at Alderson Broadus, my first school. I just had to take a gen ed political science course, and the professor I had for that class she was great, and she really just sparked my interest in it. And I've known several people involved in politics and the people close to me, and it's something that's interested me, and after taking that class with my professor at Alderson Broadus, I just really started to love it and decided that I think that's what I want to
It's
do.
interesting that you bring that up. It's election season. Election day was very
Today.
recent. Next year we're going to have another presidential election. I won't ask you if you're a Republican or a Democrat, but I mean, what do you make of the whole election process, not only this year but heading into 2016?
I think it's interesting. There are definitely some big personalities out there in terms of candidates. Like I said, there's big personalities in terms of candidates. It's almost become a little bit too much of a spectacle, I think, this year. I think we'll just see when it gets closer to the election who pans out, who kind of drops off, especially in the Republican Party. There are so many candidates. We'll just have to see who ends up coming out of that.
When your life with football is done, what is Tyler Connor going to end up doing?
Hopefully going to law school, but I'm not completely sure yet. I'm still kind of up in the air. Like I said, I've changed my mind so many times throughout my life. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. It's getting a little late in life to be making big decisions, but I'm planning on sticking with political science and law. I would like to become involved in politics someday, whether that's in the public or private sector.
Tyler Connor running for public office. That might have a nice ring to it. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Junior defensive end Tyler Connor joining us here on athletics.capital.edu. For Capital Athletics, I'm Charlie Danis. We'll see you next time.